chapter, The Silver Doe. I don't think it was quite at the beginning, but if it wasn't, we'll back up for a moment. Harry and Hermione, they spend essentially Christmas Day one place. They're still at Godric's Hollow, or they're in the woods outside Godric's Hollow. They're looking down. They've just been at Godric's Hollow. We don't know exactly where they are the next morning after they leave Godric's Hollow. But then the Silver Doe begins, and they leave where they've been, and Hermione takes them off to the Forest of Dean, okay, which is a place she grew up nearby and played at as a child. And she offers to take the watch for the night. Harry says no. And we're told after 2 nights of little sleep, Harry's senses seem more alert than usual. In other words, he's jittery. Okay? So he makes himself comfortable in front of the opening to the tent. He's looking out into the woods. And, he's trying to figure out the sounds that he hears out in the forest. Are they just forest critters, or is there somebody out there? Because Hermione said, at times when she was taking watch over the previous few nights, she thought she heard voices, which is why they move off to the Forest of Dean. So he falls asleep several times during that night. Each time he wakes up, he's jumpy. And we're told on page 365 or so, he wakes up and he sees a bright silver light moving through the trees. But it's not making any noise. Okay? So it's not stepping on branches and breaking them. It's not cracking dry leaves. And then the source of the light steps out behind a tree. Silver white doe, moon bright, dazzling, picking her way over the ground, still silent, leaving no hoof prints in the fine powdering of snow. So it's not a physical white doe. She stepped towards Harry, her beautiful head with its wide, long-lashed eyes held high. Something about this doe is familiar, but he's not sure what. He felt that he'd been waiting for her to come, but he'd forgotten until this moment that they'd arranged to meet. So, she turns and walks away. No, come back. She stops, looks at him, goes on. Harry follows the doe. Instinct, overwhelming instinct, we're told him this was not dark magic. Okay? He follows her off, and she disappears. And he sees, holding up Hermione's wand, in the reflection of the light, broken ice, or ice that has been broken. And we're told something gleamed in the light of the wand, and Harry spun about. But all that was there was a small frozen pool, its cracked black surface glittering as he raised the wand higher to examine it. He moves forwards, rather cautiously looks down. What does he see? Initial description: a great silver cross. Drops to his knees at the pool's edge, angles the wand so he can focus the light, and he sees not a great silver cross. Now he sees a glint of deep red. It was a sword with glittering rubies in its hilt. He's seen this sword. He's held this sword. He's wielded this sword. The sword of Godric Gryffindor. Okay? So, Accio sword. Not that easy. Help. Nothing happens. So he kind of walks around the pond, trying to figure out how he's going to get it out. Cracks the ice with Hermione's wand, Findo. And we're told, as far as Harry could judge, around 368, 369, maybe 370, As far as he could tell, it's not deep, but he'd have to go all the way under because he's going to get his hand around it. It's deeper than chest high. Okay? It's also going to be cold. So he gets down in, and it's really cold. How does he get down in? Does he take his shoes and socks off, sit on the edge of the pond, dip his toes in, and slowly slide in? He gathered all his courage and dived. Okay. He breaks the ice first, head first. Cold was agony. It attacked him like fire. His brain itself seemed to have frozen. His fingers close around the hilt. He pulls it upwards. Something pulls around his neck. He's still wearing the locket. Okay. He kicks out, and somebody's there and pulls him out. He had no strength to lift his head and see his Savior's identity. Are you mental? A long departed voice says, and he sees Ron. Why the hell didn't you take this thing off before you dived? Why didn't he? Didn't think about it. He was too surprised at seeing the sword of Godric Gryffindor. Probably because he knows what he can do with the sword of Godric Gryffindor. Get rid of this thing. Not this thing, the thing around his neck. He couldn't get rid of this thing if he wanted to. Harry couldn't answer. The silver dough was nothing compared with Ron's appearance. He couldn't believe it. Okay? So he asked Ron, you cast that dough? No. Of course not. I thought it was you doing it. My Patronus is a stag, Harry says. Oh yeah, forgot. Okay? So, Harry tells Ron, I want you to do it. Do what? Break the Horcrux. Me? Why? Because you got the sword out of the pool. Kind of Arthurian there. What happens with Excalibur at the end of Arthur's life? It's thrown back into the water, out of which it originally came. Okay? Ron, no. Harry, okay, I'm going to open it. Yeah, really? How are you going to do that? Has Harry tried to open it so far? They got the locket and they figured, oh, it's got a little latch and it wouldn't open. How are you going to open it? I'm going to ask it to open using Parseltongue. Ron, no, don't. Why? Because that thing's bad for me, he says. Says, I can't handle it. I'm not making excuses. All the time, Ron is saying, when he was there before and he was wearing the locket, what did it do to him?
Corrupt his thoughts.
Okay, did it corrupt his thoughts? It exacerbated him. It took those thoughts Ron already had and put a big old magnifying glass on them. Okay? Ron says, I can't explain it. I take it off and I get my head on straight again, and then I'd have to put the effing thing back on. E-F-F-I-N-G. Effing. I mean, you can't market it to kids if you've got the word fucking in it. I mean, it just doesn't go over all that well. Okay? Harry, you can. You got the sword. It's supposed to be you. So, Ron's standing there. He's got the sword. He's getting ready to swing it. It's sitting on a rock. It's not like Harry's holding it in his hands, because otherwise he'll become Harry the Handless. Harry opens it, and what's it say? I have seen your heart, and it is mine. Voldemort is saying, you belong to me. I've seen your dreams, Ronald Weasley. I've seen your fears. All you desire is possible. But all you dread is also possible. In other words, follow me, follow a true Slytherin, and what? You can have everything you want. What does Slytherin House promise its students? Greatness. Okay? So what does it say? Tom Riddle in the locket. Least loved, always, by the mother who craved a daughter. Least loved now by the girl who prefers your friend. Second best, always, eternally overshadowed. Who does Voldemort's Horcrux kind of sound like? Somebody we've met before? Who writes for a living? Sounds an awful lot like Rita Skeeter and what Rita Skeeter writes. What's the problem with what Voldemort's Horcrux, or bit of his soul, is saying? Is it true? Is Ron least loved by his mother? No. No indication of that. Ron is a middle child, however. Okay? Middle children will often say, I've got 4 kids, my 2 middle kids joke with us about this. The unloved middle child or children. Ron's one of 5 middle children. He's the youngest of them, so kind of the least, let's say. What about Hermione? Is he least loved now by the girl who prefers your friend? No. Second best, always eternally overshadowed. Is Ron second best when it comes to being next to Harry? See, the problem with what Voldemort says is there's just enough truth in it that it sounds plausible. The problem is just enough truth is not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's not 100% truth. So is 99% truth and 1% false true? No. What does that 1% false do? Negates everything. Okay? You take a true-false test, and hopefully the professor on the written instructions or orally says, if there's any part of any statement that is false, mark it false. Okay? Harry, stab it, Ron, stab it now. Why? Harry hears this too. Harry hears what the Horcrux is saying. So out of the 2 sides of the locket come little Horcrux Harry and little Horcrux Hermione. Okay? And they look at each other. Ron yells, backs away. And Harry's like, Ron! Because he backs away and he's no longer within range. Why return? We were better without you. Happier without you. Glad of your absence. We laughed at your stupidity, your cowardice, your presumption. This is the riddle Harry speaking. The riddle Hermione says, who could look at you? Who would ever look at you beside Harry Potter? What have you ever done compared with the chosen one? What are you compared with the boy who lived? How far would the boy who lived have gotten without Ron by his side? He would have died in the first book. Even if he had gotten through the trap door. Chess match. Harry would have been a goner. Okay? Each of the other books, Ron is there. Okay? So, Harry finally gets Ron to kill it. Ron kills it. And he tells Ron. Why? Again, because he's heard what Riddle said. And what's he doing? He's alleviating Ron's concern. After you left, she cried for a week. Probably longer. She didn't want me to see it. Loads of nights, we didn't even speak to each other. She's like my sister, Ron. And he should probably say here, and it's not a Luke and Leia kind of thing like my sister, for Star Wars. It's kind of weird there. I love her like a sister, and I'm not Southern. I reckon she feels the same way about me. It's always been like that. I thought you knew. Ron apparently didn't. Sorry, love. No, I was, okay. So he takes Ron back to Hermione. And what is Harry hoping? Hermione will run to him, good romantic rom-com fashion, big open arms, sloppy wet kiss. What does she do instead? Verbal slapdown, man. I mean, and punches him. Okay. So, they hear voices, and we go off to Xenophilius Loved It, chapter 20. But before we go to Xenophilius, actually, we're going to skip that chapter and go on to the Tale of Three Brothers. But think of that name again. I put this on the board, I believe, last week. Xenophilius, we talked about, love of others. And I think what Rowling means by love good is love the good. Maybe we should capitalize that, okay? Because it's Platonic. It's from Plato and Socrates. Socrates said in his apology, the last words he gave, essentially, his public defense at his trial for corrupting the youth of Athens. He said the purpose of life is to love the good. The good, Socrates essentially defined as God. Okay? The source of all morality, the source of all virtue, the source of all beauty, truth, justice, all the virtues. Okay? Love that. That is the purpose of human life. Okay? So, what do you have? If I'm correct on that. Love God, love the good, the summum bonum, the highest good, in love of others. Now, I don't know that Rowling intended this. I think she did. That's what Christ says is the greatest commandment. He delivers the Sermon on the Mount, and a young lawyer comes up to him and says, Master, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your mind, body, and soul. And the next is like to it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And the guy, being a smartass, essentially says, okay, buddy, so who's my neighbor? Is my neighbor the guy who lives next to me, like we think in the United States? Is it the person next to him? And so what does Jesus do? He tells the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay? What's the point of that parable? Or, let me put it this way. In the context of first century Palestine, what would a modern analogy be to Jews and Samaritans? Modern analogy in America.
Christians and Muslims.
Christians and Muslims. Okay. Kind of, possibly. There I think you'd have to qualify the kind of Christians and the kind of Muslims. I need something starker than that to make it fit with the Jews and the Samaritans.
Hezbollah.
And
Gaza, or whatever.
Jews. That would be your equivalent. That's not American, but we'll go with it. Okay? Arabs, Israelis. Even though there are Arab Israelis. Okay? How about Aryan Nation and the National and the NAACP? That's a good mix, right? Can't stand each other. Okay? David Duke, former Grand Wizard of the KKK. Jesse Jackson. Water and oil. Those two don't mix. Why? Jews hated Samaritans. Why did they hate Samaritans? Here's our Harry Potter link. Samaritans, according to the Jews, had dirty blood. They weren't purebloods like the Jews were. They were mixed blood. Why? Because they married with tribes of the area. Right? So, what's Jesus saying? The parable of the Good Samaritan is the Samaritan sees a Jewish priest who's been beaten up and robbed, and these other guys all walk by, these other guys, all being Jews, walk by and don't lift a finger to help the guy. The Samaritan does. Jesse Jackson is down there on the ground, bleeding out. And David Duke walks up, picks him up in his arms, takes him to the local hospital and says, put it on my bill, and I'll take care of it. Okay? That's the analogy. Is that what Rowling is essentially saying? That Xenophilius love good is? Love of others, love of neighbor, okay? Love God. He's the only one, seemingly, almost, I should say. He's almost the only one in the entire series who doesn't render judgment against anybody. He's going to say one bad thing about Victor Crumb. But that's because Victor Crumb attacks him. Okay? He's going to say, the crazy friend at Bill and Fleur's wedding. So, chapter 21, Hermione mentions the symbol that he was wearing at Bill and Fleur's wedding. We wonder what it meant. And he says, oh, you're talking about the Deathly Hallows. And they're like, what? Deathly Hallows? That's right. You haven't heard of them? Not surprised. Very, very few wizards believe. Witness that knuckleheaded young man at your brother's wedding who attacked me for sporting the symbol of a well-known dark wizard. Such ignorance. He says the symbol, what? One simply uses the symbol to reveal oneself to other believers. Why? In the hope that they might help one with the quest. And for the first time in the series, she introduces the idea of a quest, a larger quest. Not like Harry's quest for the Horcruxes. Harry's quest to kill Voldemort. Okay? What's the quest for the Horcruxes the quest for the Hallows really about? Is it religious? Kinda is. Is it about eternal life? Kinda is. Is it about mastery over death? Kinda is. Okay. Hermione, Harry says, I don't understand. Well, you see, believers seek the Deathly Hallows. Hermione, yeah, but what are they? What are the Deathly Hallows? He says, I'm assuming you're familiar with the Tales of Beedle the Bard. Harry, no. Ron and Hermione say yes. Ron and Hermione? Well, Ron was raised in a wizard house. He's familiar with wizard fairy tales. Hermione, because Dumbledore gave her the book. Harry, not a clue. So, he says, I think I've got a copy around here somewhere. Hermione goes, I've got a copy. She pulls it out. And notice Xenophilius says, the original? Now, he seems to be implying there, the book Hermione has is like the manuscript version, the one written by whoever the original author is, Beedle the Bard. He said, okay, well, why don't you read it aloud? Hermione's like, all right. So she tells the story. Where does J.K. Rowling get the story of Beedle the Bard from? Because it's not original to her. Like every great author, she plagiarizes. She takes bits from here and bits from there and reworks it. Like almost every one of Shakespeare's plays. Not original. He finds the source, he modifies. Okay? Her source is Geoffrey Chaucer, and it's The Pardoner's Tale. Okay? But, like Shakespeare, she modifies. In The Pardoner's Tale, the pardoner tells this story about three brothers, three drunks. Okay? And one night, they're in this pub, and a guy comes in and he talks about somebody having died, and the somebody is a friend of theirs, and they're drunk, and they're like, we're going to go kill her, son of a bitch, or kill him, okay? And so they're told, well, take the road that leads out of town and go down about 3 miles, and you'll meet with them, okay? They're drunk. They go down the road. They meet an old man. They think the old man is the guy who killed their friend. The old man says, no, it's not me, but I know where he is. And he tells them, keep going down this road, take a left, and you're going to find a tree, and you'll meet him at the foot of that tree. Okay? They go out, they go down to the tree, and they find there at the foot of the tree a big old pile of gold. Well, finding the man who killed their friend, that idea is gone. Now all they're thinking about, big old pile of gold. So they drink some more, and they're almost out of food and drink. And so two of the brothers recommend the third brother go back into town with a piece of gold, buy a bunch of food, get a bunch more wine, and then come back. So, takes a piece of gold, walks off to town. And the one brother says to the other brother, you know, this big old pile of gold divided by 3 means we each get so much. But if it were only divided by 2, we'd each get more. Let's count when he gets back. So they plot. The brother who goes off, actually, take that back. These aren't brothers, they're friends. The one who goes off into town, he goes off, he buys the wine and food, and he starts to think, all that gold divided by 3 means I get a third. All that gold divided by 1 means I get it all. And so he goes to the apothecary shop, okay? Your friendly neighborhood Kroger pharmacist, and gets some wine. Excuse me, gets some poison. And he poisons their 2 bottles of wine. He goes back to the tree, gives them their food and wine. They kill him, and then they drink their wine. Okay? They all die. So, that's the source story that she's playing. Okay? So Hermione says, and Death spoke to them. Harry's like, what? I'm sorry, how? Death, what do you mean? It's a fairy story, Harry. Just work with me, okay? He says, okay, sorry. Death spoke to them. So he goes on, and Harry's like, wait, Death's got a cloak of invisibility? Yeah, Ron says, so we can sneak up on people. She finishes the story. And Xenophilius says, well, there you are. Hermione's like, sorry? He picks up a quill from a packed table at his elbow, pulls a torn piece of parchment, and draws this. The Elder Wand, okay, the Resurrection Stone, the Cloak of Invisibility. Together, the Deathly Hallows. But there's no mention of the words Deathly Hallows. They're nowhere in the story. He said, well, of course not. That is a children's tale, told to amuse rather than to instruct. Now, is he saying that seriously, or is he being kind of sarcastic? What kind of books does Hermione normally read, let's say? Scholarly. What books do we know she's read? Multiple times. One of them in the last couple chapters she was reading, A History of Magic again. How many times has she read that book? I mean, she knows it front and back. History of Magic, History of Hogwarts, Hogwarts of History, sorry, I got the title right. She knows these things. In other words, non-fiction. Tales of Beedle the Bard's what? Pure fiction. It's Harry Potter. She would not read Harry Potter. Okay? He says, the ancient story refers to 3 objects or hallows, which, if united, will make the possessor master of death. Explain, Ron says, what do you mean master of death? Master, conqueror, vanquisher, whatever you prefer. Hermione, so you actually believe these things exist? Of course. But, Mr. Lovegood, how can you possibly believe? Luna has told me all about you, young lady. You are, I gather, not unintelligent. It is actually a bit of praise. Not un means you are intelligent, but painfully limited, narrow, closed-minded. In other words, according to Xenophilius, what's Hermione's problem?
She thinks inside the box.
And what's the box?
What she knows.
What she knows? What else? What's proven? What you can feel, what you can touch, what you can quantify, what you can measure. Okay? Why does she have such a hard time in the death room? Yeah, it can't be understood. The mind room, yeah, you can understand that somewhat. Natural forces, you can understand that. Hermione says, we all know there are such things as invisibility cloaks. I mean, they're rare, but He says, but the third hallow is a true cloak of invisibility, Miss Granger. I mean to say, it's not a traveling cloak imbued with a disillusionment charm or dazzling hex, etc. He says, we're talking about a cloak really and truly renders the wearer completely invisible and endures eternally, giving constant and impenetrable concealment no matter what spells are cast at it. So, does the true hallow cloak of invisibility only work against spells? That's what he said. He said, however, it gives constant and impenetrable concealment. And yet, shut up. And yet, two people see right through it. So how can Harry's cloak be the true cloak of invisibility when Dumbledore can see right through it? Mirror of Erised. Right? Harry and Ron wear it the second night. Harry wears it the first night. Harry and Ron wear it the second night. Harry wears it the third night. The third night, Dumbledore just happens to be sitting there on a table and says, so, back again, Harry. And Harry takes the cloak off. And he says, you saw yourself with your family. Your friend Ronald Weasley saw himself. Okay. Mad-Eye Moody sees through it multiple times. There's another time. What's the other time Dumbledore sees through it? Actually, take that back. Dumbledore already knew.
When Dumbledore died?
No. Chamber of Secrets. When Fudge comes to get Hagrid, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. No, they do have it on. Harry and Ron and Hermione are in Hagrid's hut. Hagrid says, put the cloak on, because there's a knock on the door. They put the cloak on. Dumbledore comes in, followed swiftly by Fudge and Lucius Malfoy. And before Dumbledore leaves, that's when he says, as long as there is anyone here who still has trust in me, I will never have truly left Hogwarts. And he kind of winks over at them. He sees completely through them. Right? How many cloaks have you ever seen like that, Miss Granger? And she's like, yeah, I'm not going to answer that one. Okay, so she said, okay, so let's say the cloak is real. What about the resurrection stone? Well, how can that be real? Prove that it's not. That's ridiculous. How can I possibly prove it doesn't exist? You expect me to get hold of all the pebbles in the world and test them? I mean, you could claim anything's real if the only basis for believing in it is that nobody's proved it doesn't exist. And he's like, good, I see you're starting to open your mind. What's his point?
The absence of evidence is the evidence of absence.
Exactly. Hamlet says to his friend Horatio in the play Hamlet, there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. Why? Because Horatio is a Stoic. Horatio believes in what can be seen, what can be touched, what can be tasted, what can be felt, here and now. What can be quantified? According to that belief, love isn't real. Why? You can't measure love. Love is not measured by the size of a rock you put on somebody's finger. Might be nice, but it doesn't measure it. Love isn't measured by how many Christmas presents you give or receive. Love is an intangible. All right? So his point to Hermione is, not everything that's real is necessarily something that can be seen. Well, Hermione should know that. So Harry says, the Elder Wand. You think that exists too? He says, oh, well, there's all kinds of evidence about that. And he starts rattling off names of people who owned the Elder Wand in the past. So where do you think it is now? Ron asks. Who knows? All right. And Hermione says, does the Peveril family have anything to do with the Deathly Hallows? You told me you didn't know anything. And she brings up the name because she saw it on the gravestone. And she says, it was there, Ignotus Peveril, with the sign of the Deathly Hallows. And that's when Xenophilius says, the three brothers in the story were actually the three Peveril brothers. Antioch, Cadmus, Ignotus, the three original owners of the Hallows. Okay. Page 414. So he goes off to find out what Luna's doing with dinner because it's taking so long. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione, bottom of the page, are talking. And Hermione's talking about the story. And the kind of superstitions that the story relates, and the kind of superstitions she and Harry know because they were raised by muggles. And she says it's just a morality tale. The tale of Beetle the Bard. It's obvious which gift is best, which one you choose. And they each speak. And they each speak assuming the other one is going to say the same thing. Hermione says cloak, Ron says wand, Harry says stone. Why? Why does Hermione say cloak? Why would that be the best thing in Hermione's mind? I mean, Ron and the wand, that's pretty clear. You get the death stick, the wand of destiny. And what's that going to do for you?
You don't have to be second best.
Yeah, no, I've got power, rule the universe. Harry's pretty clear. What can he do? Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi, Sirius. Later on, hi, Lupin. Hi, Dumbledore. Maybe even hi, Hedwig. All right. Why does Hermione want the cloak of invisibility? How? Don't know? Okay. Does Hermione want anonymity? Does everybody know who Hermione is? Xenophilius said, I've heard about you. When they meet other people, when they meet, who is it that they meet? Neville's grandmother. She says, I know who you are. You've helped Neville out a lot. What happens every classroom? A question is asked. It's like, she can't stop herself. I have to answer this. She knows everything. Would the cloak of invisibility allow her some out of the spotlightness? Is that what she wants? I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking. Okay? So, they talk about it. They talk about the three things. And Harry says, when Ron asks him, well, why would you take the stone? Stupid on Ron's part. Well, I mean, if you could bring people back, we could have Sirius. Really? Do you think Sirius would be a whole big help in hunting Horcruxes? I don't think so. Mad Eye? Maybe a little bit more. Dumbledore? Yeah, that would be a big help. My parents? Probably not so much. But it'd make them feel a lot better. Okay? So, they almost get captured, and they go off. He leaves Xenophilius. Chapter 22, the Deathly Hallows. Probably around page 425. It's got to be 425. Hermione says, I don't think any of this matters. Even if he was being honest, I never heard such a load of nonsense in all my life. That is, even if he really believed all this. What a load of crap. Ron, hang on, though. Chamber of Secrets was supposed to be a myth, too, wasn't it? Notice what Ron's doing. Chamber of Secrets turned out to be real. How do you know it's not real? In other words, what was the question Harry seemingly kept getting pummeled with at the beginning of the novel? Choose what to believe. But the Deathly Hallows can't exist, Ron. Can't. That implies kind of categorical imperative. It is physically impossible. Ron's kind of like, well, we know one is. So if one can be possible. Hermione, the tale of the three brothers is a story about how humans are frightened of death. If surviving was as simple as hiding under the invisibility cloak, we'd have everything we need already. Notice what Hermione thinks about just stories. They don't mean anything. It's just a way of what? A way of explaining away our fear of death. And therefore, all mythology is totally meaningless. Thunder? Ooh! The sky god must be angry. And so he's getting ready to throw his bolts of lightning down. Or Thor's up there beating on a stone. Right? Harry, you know what we could do with an unbeatable wand? There's no such thing. Harry, when my wand connected with you-know-who's, it made my mom and dad appear, and Cedric. But they weren't really back from the dead, Harry. She says they were pale imitations. Pale imitations who told Harry what to do in the next 5 minutes. Doesn't sound like an imitation to me. Okay? So, as they talk, ideas swirling around in Harry's mind kind of start to coalesce. And he's thinking of the name Peveril that Hermione mentioned, and he says, it's that name. Marvolo Gaunt mentioned that name. He said he was descended from the Peverils. They're kind of like, so? The ring that became the Horcrux, Marvolo Gaunt said it had the Peveril coat of arms on it. Maybe the coat of arms, Harry's implying, was actually this. Okay. They keep talking back and forth. Ron asks, where do you reckon the ring is now? What did Dumbledore do with it after he broke it open? 3 objects, Hallows, which if united, Harry's, thinking. He says, Dumbledore had my cloak the night my parents died. My mom told Sirius Dumbledore don't borrow it. This is why he wanted to examine it. He thought it was the 3rd Hallow. Peveril's buried in Goblet's Hollow. He's my ancestor. I'm descended from the 3rd brother. It all makes sense. Hermione's like, Harry, read it. Read it. He gives her the letter. Okay? And he says, it's in here. Because he has the snitch. Dumbledore put the ring in here. You reckon? He could not understand why Ron looked taken aback. It was so obvious, so clear to Harry. Everything fitted. His cloak was the 3rd Hallow, and when he discovered how to open the snitch, he would have the 2nd. And then all he needed to do was to get the Elder Wand. Okay? They continue talking for several pages. Around 4:35 or so. He's thinking of that 3rd Hallow, or of the stone. He's looking at the snitch. I open up the clothes. But what's the clothes? Why couldn't he have the stone now? If he had the stone, he could have Dumbledore. And the wand. Where's the wand? He wished his scar would burn. Why? So we could see what Voldemort's thinking. Hermione wouldn't like that, of course. But then, she did not believe. Is Harry starting to? Xenophilius had been right, in a way. Limited, narrow, closed-minded. She was scared of the idea of the Deathly Hallows. Why? Because they all ultimately have to do with the twin issues of life and death. Okay? It's that second part Hermione can't wrap her mind around. He thinks of Luna in Azkaban and says if only they could rescue her. Okay, doesn't Harry have kind of a full plate right now? Isn't his to-do list pretty big? It's not pretty big in the sense he's got hundreds of things, but he's got 3 more Horcruxes, and where will they be? Doesn't really know. Okay. But we're told they pack up the tent the next morning, starts pouring, and in the middle of that paragraph, it was as though a flame had been lit inside him that nothing, not Hermione's flat disbelief, nor Ron's persistent doubts could extinguish. What is that flame lit within him? It's about this. Belief. Or, another word for that, because notice the two things that are opposed to it. Hermione's what? Flat disbelief. Out and out denial. Nor Ron's persistent doubt. See, doubt is not a lack of faith. Disbelief is. Doubt's kind of like, I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. The person who says that to Christ. He starts thinking, yeah, got to get the Hallows. And then he also starts thinking, the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. Hermione, I thought it was you knew who we were supposed to be fighting. In other words, we're supposed to be going after Horcruxes, Harry, so we can end Voldemort. And he has a vision. He sees a place that looks like a skull, something like a mountain, off in the distance. Okay. So they start talking about where could the Horcruxes be. Diagon Alley, Hogwarts, Riddle House, Borgin and Burke's, Albania, etc. And they start listening to Potter Watch. About, I don't know, 4:38, 4:40, somewhere in that. Looks like it must be around 4:38. And they recognize voices on the wireless. Lee Jordan's voice, they hear. Right? They hear Lupin's voice. They hear Kingsley Shacklebolt's voice. And Kingsley says, page 440, Muggles remain ignorant of the source of their suffering as they continue to sustain heavy casualties. We continue to hear truly inspirational stories of wizards and witches risking their own safety to protect Muggle friends and neighbors, often without the Muggles' knowledge. Okay, now what's that telling us? There's all kinds of stuff going on in the wizarding world that people like us are completely clueless to. And Kingsley says every human life is worth the same and worth saving. Lupin chimes in because River says, Romulus, do you maintain, as you have every time you've appeared on our program, that Harry Potter is still alive? He says, I do. The boy who lived remains a symbol of everything for which we are fighting. Triumph of good, power of innocence, need to keep resisting. And Harry's like, way to go. Calling you a coward was the best thing I ever did. Why? It sent it back and it made Lupin stand up and do what he needed to do. Okay? So we're going to skip a bunch. We hear Fred, and they get captured. Harry, Ron, and Hermione taken to Malfoy Manor. But before they do, just before Harry gets captured, Hermione hits Harry's face with a stinging hex, so it breaks out and hives and stuff. They get taken to Malfoy Manor. Draco is home, we are told, because it is the 456 or so, because we're told it's the Easter holidays. Okay? Not Easter break, not spring break, Easter holidays. Holy days is what holidays means. And Narcissa says first, if that's Harry Potter, Draco will know. So Lucius talks to him and says, if we're the ones to hand Potter over to the Dark Lord, everything will be forgiven. So he gets Draco to get up real close to Harry's face. And Lucius says, there's something there. Could be the scar. Come, Draco, look closely. What do you think? Harry saw Draco's face up close now, right beside his father's. Extraordinary like. Except that while his father looked beside himself with excitement, Draco's expression was full of reluctance, even fear. Why? Does Draco recognize Harry?
Probably.
I think he does. And he doesn't turn him in. Why? He knows what will happen. He doesn't want Harry to die. Not because he suddenly found this newfound love of Harry. Don't go all slash fiction on me. You know. So, Harry is taken down to the cellar. Ron is taken down to the cellar. Who else is down there? Griphook? Ollivander? Luna? And, is it Dean Thomas or Dean Jordan? Dean, okay? Hermione they keep upstairs. Why? It's Bellatrix's playtime. She's going to torture her. Ron yells out, no, take me, you can have me. Okay? Dobby shows up, starts popping people out, and Peter Pettigrew comes to get Harry. And he's got Harry by the throat with the silver hand, but Harry and Ron have Pettigrew cornered. And Harry says, you're going to kill me after I saved your life? You owe me, Wormtail. The silver fingers slacken. Is this Wormtail letting go? Because the way Harry describes it later, it's the hand. Does it on its own. He saw the rat-like man's small water eyes widen with fear and surprise. Why? Because the hand lets go. He seemed just as shocked as Harry at what his hand had done, at the tiny merciful impulse it had betrayed. And he continued to struggle more powerfully. What does the hand do? It goes to Wormtail's throat and starts to strangle him. Harry tries to save him, but he can't. Okay? They overhear, meanwhile, Griphook say, the sword of Godric Gryffindor is a fake. Dobby gets Griphook out, he gets Ron out, and as he's taking Harry, Bellatrix throws a knife. Dobby, is this Shell Cottage? Harry asks. Ready to fight if he needed to. Have we come to the right place? Dobby? There's Dobby standing a few feet away from him, swaying, with the knife sticking out of his chest. Dobby, no, help, no. He did not know or care whether they were wizards or muggles, friends or foes. All he cared about was that a dark stain was spreading across Dobby's front, and that he had stretched out his thin arms to Harry with a look of supplication. Are his arms like this, or is it his arms and face have the look of supplication? What's supplication? Prayer. Is Dobby doing this as he dies? What did he say to Harry when he showed up in the hospital room in the second book? It's after he's already tried to keep Harry from coming. He says, you don't know what it's like. He said, you know, when you first defeated Lord Voldemort, it was like a light shining in the darkness. You were a beacon of hope to the downtrodden and such. Okay? So he dies. And what does Harry do? Whips out his wand, $5,000 casket, big old mausoleum. No. The elf had gone where he could not call him back. Told at the end of the first page, the next chapter, or the end of the first long paragraph, Voldemort's rage was dreadful, and yet Harry's grief for Dobby seemed to diminish it. Because Harry breaks into Voldemort's mind when Voldemort gets to Malfoy Manor, because he's expecting Harry Potter. And instead, he's got zilch. He doesn't have Harry Potter, he doesn't have Ron, he doesn't have Hermione, he doesn't have Griphook. He doesn't have anybody. by a bunch of Malfoys and Fenrir. Harry, no, I want to do it properly. Not by magic. Why is burying Dobby by hand proper?
Shows you care.
Shows he cares, so doing it by magic wouldn't? Dobby's a fully magical being.
Dobby's also kind of a creature of toil and supplication. So
Okay.
there's a certain parallel
House elves do what all their lives, apparently? Most of them. They're slaves. They work. Do they really work with their hands, though? What do? Magic. I've been wondering, asking this question for 10 years. I still haven't completely figured it out. Why not by magic? Is it because Harry needs to feel the pain of burying Dobby, of digging a deep grave for him? Okay? He dug with a kind of fury, relishing the manual work, glorying in the non-magic of it. For every drop of his sweat and every blister felt like a gift to the elf who had saved their lives. Right? What's he really doing? Harry is offering his suffering, blood, blisters, sweat, to Dobby. His scar burned, but he was master of the pain. Finally, Harry fully learns self-control. He fully controls his pain. He felt it, yet was apart from it. He had learned control at last, learned to shut his mind to Voldemort, the very thing Dumbledore had wanted him to learn from Snape. Why? Voldemort couldn't penetrate his thoughts now while he mourned Dobby. Grief, it seemed, drove Voldemort out, though Dumbledore, of course, would have said that it was love. What is Harry really doing when he's doing this by hand? He's denying his magic. He was raised most of his life, so far, a non-magical person. Okay? He's emptying himself in this sense for Dobby, pouring everything he has out. He digs and digs and digs. And what happens as he digs? His mind just kind of like is illumined. He starts to understand. He thinks of Wormtail, dead. Why? Because of one small unconscious impulse of mercy. Dumbledore had foreseen that. What does that tell us about Wormtail? Notice, unconscious impulse of mercy. Does it matter whether it's conscious or unconscious? No, it doesn't. But what does that tell us? There's a little bit of good. May not be much, but just enough. Okay? Puts Dobby in the grave. After Harry wraps him in his jacket, Ron sat on the edge of the grave, stripped off his shoes and socks, which he placed on Dobby's bare feet. Dean gets him a hat, which Harry placed carefully upon Dobby's head, muffling his bat-like ears. We should close his eyes. What are they doing?
Last rides.
Well, kind of, maybe. They're giving him clothes. Making him free. Setting him, how do you free a house elf? The master has to give him clothes. Okay? Others come in. Luna places her fingers tenderly upon Dobby's eyelids, closes them. Harry puts him in the grave, arranges his tiny limbs so that he might have been resting, climbs out, gazes for the last time. Luna, we should say something. Thank you so much, Dobby, for rescuing me from that cellar. It's so unfair that you had to die when you were so good and brave. Notice, it's so unfair. Life sucks. Who else is going to die? Usually, if this one doesn't get to the majority of my students, the next one does. It's when Fred dies that I often have tears. I did this morning in my class. I had tears at this point. I mean, one of the girls just tears streaming down her face. I'll always remember what you did for us. I hope you're happy now. Yeah, thanks, Dobby, says Ron. Thanks, mutters Dean. Notice Harry just swallows. No words. Goodbye, Dobby, he says. And he puts the stone on the grave. Here lies Dobby, a free elf. How free? Free of pain, free of suffering. Okay? And his mind, Harry's mind, was full of those things that had come to him in the grave. Ideas that had taken shape in the darkness. Ideas both fascinating and terrible. Harry kind of takes command. He tells Bill and Fleur, I need to speak to Griphook. I need to speak to Ollivander. They're like, well, Harry, come. And he goes, no, now. He looked out over the ocean, we're told, and felt closer this dawn than ever before, closer to the heart of it all. The heart of what? What's the it? Because Rowling doesn't specify. Life? The universe? Everything? The prophecy? His purpose? His scar prickles. He knows Voldemort's getting there too. What does he mean by getting there? Closer to the heart of it. He doesn't mean there, a physical location. That's going to come up later. He means Voldemort is just kind of a few mental steps behind Harry. He's putting things together. What could Harry do? At this point, beat him to the punch, meaning he could disapparate from where he is, apparate outside the gate of Hogwarts, go inside, go to the White Tomb, rifle the dead old wizard's body, and steal the Elder Wand. But he doesn't. The Dumbledore in Harry's mind, in Harry's head, let me back up. Voldemort was getting there too. Harry understood and yet did not understand. He understood logic, reason, and yet part of him just doesn't understand. His instinct was telling him one thing, his brain's telling him it's not, telling him another. What's his instinct? It's this. His gut. His brain says, Harry, not a smart move. Dumbledore in Harry's mind smiled, surveying Harry over the tips of his fingers, pressed together as if in prayer. Why? Because he's seen Dumbledore like this in his office. For example, the interview with Tom Riddle, Dumbledore is sitting there kind of like this. And Harry's thinking, you gave Ron the Deluminator. You understood him. You gave him the way back. You understood Wormtail, too. You knew there was a bit of regret there. If you knew them, what did you know about me, Dumbledore? Am I meant to know but not to seek? Notice, he's not meant to know. He is meant to seek. Did you know how hard I'd find that? Is that why you made it this difficult? So I'd have to work that out? That is, so I'd have to seek? And what happens? He sees the outline of a building in his mind. Hogwarts. He knows what's happening. He knows Voldemort is getting there. Okay? So he talks to Ollivander and Griphook. And what does Ollivander tell him or / teach him? In order to get a wand to obey you, do you have to kill the wand's previous owner? No. You just have to what? Master. Defeat the previous owner. Okay? And you can do that any way, as long as you defeat that person. So Harry says, I took this wand from Draco Malfoy by force. Can I use it? And he says, I think so. Conquered wand will usually bend its will to its new master. If you want it, it's more likely to do your bidding and do it well than another wand. And this holds true for all other wands? Uh-huh. Even the Elder Wand? Yep. Okay. He tells Ollivander what his wand did the night Voldemort attacked when the Seven Potters left. And Ollivander says, your wand performed something unique that night. The connection of the twin cores is incredibly rare. Yet, why your wand should have snapped the borrowed wand, I do not know. When you know who realized my wand had done something strange, he came back and asked about that other wand, didn't he? How do you know this? Harry just says, yes, he asked. He'd always been happy with the wand I made him. You and Phoenix Feather. Have I ever mentioned the importance of you? Yew leaves are poisonous. There is, however, one animal in the forest for whom yew leaves are not poisonous. Deer. Okay? It can eat anything. What is Harry's Patronus? A stag. Voldemort's wand, okay, is, in this sense, this meaning sense, edible by Harry. Harry's wand is what? Holly and Phoenix. And we've talked about the holly, red berries, green leaves, evergreen, ever living, symbolic of Christ. The phoenix is symbolic of Christ, etc. Okay? So what does he hear from Griphook? Why does he need to talk to him? What's it, Gringotts? The cup. Okay. So they leave Shell Cottage and go off for the Warner Brothers amusement park ride. I think that's entirely what she had in mind when she wrote the chapter for Gringotts, because she had already inked the deal with Warner Brothers. Chapter 27, final hiding place. Harry sees Voldemort. Go, take the wand. 28, the missing mirror. They go to Hogsmeade. They show up just outside the Hog's Head. They get taken in by the barkeep, who turns out to be the dear, charming brother of Albus Dumbledore, who tells Harry, when Harry tells him why they're there, around page 560, 562, let it go, boy, before you follow him. Save yourself. Harry, I can't. Why not? You're fighting. You're in the order. Order of the Phoenix is finished. You know who's won. It's over. They keep talking. Harry says, I've got a job to do. And he mentions Elphias Doge. Aberforth. That old Burke thought the sun shone out of my brother's every orifice. He did. So did plenty of people, you three included. Harry keeps quiet. Why? He did not want to express the doubts and uncertainties about Dumbledore that had riddled him for months now. Why? He had made his choice while he dug Dobby's grave. Meaning, he chose what to believe. Not Rita Skeeter. Not Auntie Muriel. He decided to continue along the winding, dangerous path indicated for him by Albus Dumbledore. Does he know where the path ends? It's meandering. Okay? He only knows the part of the path that he can see right in front of him. To accept that he had not been told everything that he wanted to know, but simply to trust. Belief. That's what it means when you say, I trust somebody. It means you have belief in them, or you believe them. Trust is not 100% assurance. Okay? Trust is not proof. Trust means there's an element, just an element of possible doubt. But you're going to go with it anyways. All right? So, Aberforth goes on and on about his mother and his sister And what happens between Gellert Grindelwald and Albus Dumbledore in their battle, and how Ariana dies. Page 567. He finishes. He's in tears. Hermione's crying. And he says, of course, and now Albus was free, wasn't he? Free of the burden of his sister. Free to become Harry. He wasn't free. What? He wasn't free. And Harry recounts what Dumbledore said in the cave. He thought he was back there with you and Grindelwald. I know he did. He thought he was watching Grindelwald hurting you and Ariana. It was torture to him. I don't believe it. Hermione says, Dumbledore loved Harry. Why didn't he tell him to hide them? Why didn't he say to him, take care of yourself? Harry. He cuts off Hermione. He doesn't give her an opportunity to answer. Because sometimes you've got to think about more than your own safety. Sometimes you've got to think about the greater good. What does he mean, the greater good? See, talking about, because sometimes you've got to be the chosen one. You've got to be the savior of the world. Is that what he means? I don't think so. I think he means, like what he does in the Forbidden Forest for Draco. Like what he does when he asks Luna, do you need help finding your stuff? Like what he does when he goes down really pissed off at Hagrid and then says, is there anything we can do? What he means is sometimes you got to think about what? Others instead of yourself. This is war. Who's he thinking about? He doesn't know it yet. He's thinking about Tonks. He's thinking about Lupin. He's thinking about Sirius. He's thinking about Mad-Eye. He's thinking about Fred. He's thinking about Dobby. He's thinking about Hedwig. He's thinking about the McKinnons. He's thinking about Fabian Pruitt, who's watching us. He's thinking about all the people who died because of Voldemort. And he's thinking, if I don't try to stop him, who will? Somebody has got to be the plug for the hole in the dike. That's his point. Somebody's got to step up to it. What does that mean, though? I might die. But if somebody else can live, you're 17, boy. What's Aberforth's point? Not your war. Harry, I'm of age. 17, 16, 18, doesn't matter. And I'm going to keep fighting even if you've given up. Who says I've given up? Order of the Phoenix is finished. Harry quotes back at him. Don't say I like it, but it's truth. Harry, no, it's not. Your brother knew how to finish. You know who. He passed the knowledge on to me. He doesn't pass all of it, however. Okay? So they look at the portrait on the wall, and Neville pops through. And then a variety of others start popping through in the chapter of the Lost Item. The DA arrive, you know. Harry goes off to Hogwarts. Next chapter. The sacking of Severus Snape. He's got his cloak on, and he sees Amicus Carrow trying to blame the kids for something he has done. And McGonagall kind of steps up to him and says, no, you're not going to. A couple of kids, more or less. What's the difference? Only the difference between truth and lies, courage and cowardice, she says. He said, well, it's not up to you. Not in case of what you'll permit, Minerva McGonagall. Your time's over. It's us what's in charge here now. And you'll back me up or you'll pay the price. And he spits in her face. Harry's right next to her. Harry pulls the cloak off himself, raised his wand, and said, you shouldn't have done that. Crucio. Lifted off his feet. Harry, I see what Bellatrix meant. Blood thundering through his brain. You really need to mean it. Does that mean Harry gets his jollies doing this? No. This is what? This is his righteous anger. Because when he first tries it on Bellatrix, she says, Righteous anger won't hurt me long. You have to really mean it. Well, he does really mean it. Why? What's he doing?
Defending.
How and what specifically is he defending?
McGonagall's
Yes, he is defending McGonagall's honor. Has Harry always had a lovey-dovey relationship? I don't mean, not that kind of, teacher having sex with students kind of thing. But has he had a close, warm, friendly relationship with McGonagall? She's a stern person. Okay? She is cold, harsh. He says, he spat at you. Potter, that was very, very gallant of you. But don't you realize, and Harry's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Okay? Voldemort's on the way. Okay? So, he goes off, and Percy comes in just before the end of that chapter. Lupin's there, shows him a picture of the baby, little Teddy. Tonks is with him at her mother's. Not for long. Percy comes in and says, I was a fool. I was an idiot. I was a pompous prat. I was and Fred finishes the sentence for him. Ministry-loving, family-disowning, power-hungry moron? Yes, I was. I mean, Fred knows exactly what his brother is. Fred, well, you can't say fairer than that. Like, welcome home. Percy goes, he apologizes to his dad, to his mom, etc. George, what made you see sense, Perce? He says, it's been coming on a while. Aberforth made contact with Aberforth. He tipped me off 10 minutes ago. Hogwarts was going to make a fight of it, so here I am. Okay? We get the Battle of Hogwarts. All hell breaks loose. So, let's see. Pick up with Harry talks to Rowena Ravenclaw, the Grey Lady. She tells him about the Bloody Baron, and he runs into Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle. They go into the room of requirement. We have the weird fire and all that kind of stuff. And we get to the end of that chapter. The world resolved itself into pain and semi-darkness. Harry was half buried in the wreckage of a corridor that had been subjected to a terrible attack. Cold air hits him because the side of the castle had been blown away. Hermione struggling to get to her feet. 3 red-headed men were grouped on the ground where the wall had blasted apart. 3 red-headed men means what? 3 dead Weasleys. Because notice, they're on the ground. They're not moving. Harry grabs Hermione's hand. No, Fred, no. And it's Percy. Shaking his brother, and Ron was kneeling beside them. Fred's eyes stared without seeing. The ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face. What happened to Fred? Other than he was killed.
He died.
Died laughing? How? Avada Kedavra. His eyes are wide open. His mouth is still in the laugh. Because what does Avada Kedavra do? Whatever you're doing, the moment you're hit, that's what you're doing for all eternity, body-wise. Okay? Next paragraph. Next chapter. The world had ended. So why had the battle not ceased? Bad enough when Dobby died. The world had ended? Why? Harry's mind was in free fall, spinning out of control, unable to grasp the impossibility, because Fred Weasley could not be dead. It's like, to Harry's mind, a world without Fred Weasley? Can't be. Got to be something wrong with this picture. And then a body fell past the hole, blown into the side of the school, and curses flew in at them from the darkness. In other words, time catches up. Okay? They get Percy out of there. So the battle rages on, and Harry goes off and finds Snape with Voldemort. This is, I think, page 655. Snape says, "Let me bring you the boy." He's like, "No, Severus, I need you here." And they talk about the magic he's doing. Snape sucking up to him. Voldemort saying it's not good enough. He says, "You defeated Dumbledore. You killed him. You're the master of the Elder Wand. Won't serve me while you live, Severus." "My lord." Snape raises his wand. "Cannot be any other way. I must master the wand, Severus. Master the wand. I master Potter at last. And notice he doesn't just Avada Kedavra him. Why not? Yeah, it'd be too easy. It would make the plot a whole lot harder. Okay? Because then Harry wouldn't have memories. He wouldn't have the memories that he needs to dive into. So Voldemort puts him in a little cage and sicks his big snake on him, and we hear, "I regret it." Coldly, he says this. Does he regret it? No. That's why we get the adverb coldly. Because Voldemort doesn't regret anything. Regret implies what? Cared. It implies sorrow. It implies I was wrong. So, Snape pulls the memory out, puts it in the bottle, gives it to Harry, and says, "Look at me," and dies. Why? Lily's eyes. He wants to die in Lily's eyes, seeing them. So, Voldemort gets on the Voldemort PA system and says, "You fought valiantly. Lord Voldemort knows how to value bravery." And I kind of meant, if I were filming this, I'd have Voldemort kind of go, because he's a smart ass, "You've all sustained heavy losses. If you continue to resist, you'll all die. But I'm merciful, will retreat, take care of your dead with dignity, treat your injured. And now, Harry Potter, I speak to you. You've allowed your friends to die for you rather than face me yourself. I'll give you 1 hour. Show up in the Forbidden Forest, or I lay waste to everyone." Nice little bit of encouragement, right? Everyone you love will die unless you turn yourself into me. What did Harry say at the beginning of the novel? "No, I'm not going to have you guys in danger because of me by being little Harry Potters." Did Fred have to, in the previous chapter, turn himself into Harry Potter? Nope. He died just as much for Harry Potter, though. Dobby died just as much for Harry Potter. Lupin's going to die just as much for Harry Potter. Hermione and Ron, don't listen to him, Harry. He's like, don't. So he runs up to Dumbledore's office, pulls out the pensive, throws in the memory. And he sees Lily and Petunia and Snape. And Lily and Petunia are 10-year-olds. Or younger. Petunia's the older of the two, by the way. Okay? So he watches these images and they shift in and out from one memory to another. And he sees this relationship develop. We read about Petunia getting a letter from the headmaster. Can't go. We see Lily and Snape get on the Hogwarts Express. And Harry sees his father, slight, black-haired like Snape, But with that indefinable air. This is around probably 171, 172. One of the boys sharing the compartment, who had shown no interest at all in Lily and Snape until that point, looked around at the word. And Harry, whose attention had been focused entirely on these two beside the window, saw his father. Slight, black-haired like Snape, with that indefinable air of having been well cared for, even adored. Notice that. Why does Rowling give us that juxtaposition? What's really different between James Potter and Severus Snape? Family. Family. James comes from what kind of family? Loving. Whole, complete. Snape, incomplete, broken family, unloving family. Change their circumstances. Would James Potter have grown up like Severus Snape? Would he have become Severus Snape? I think Rowling is talking an awful lot about nurture versus nature. Because with the guys who turn out overtly appearing bad, look at their families. Look at Voldemort. What kind of home life did he have? He didn't. Look at Snape. He didn't. Look at Malfoy. Loving family? In a sense. Is his father loving? No. Is his mother? Yes. She will do what for Draco? How do we know? She lies to Voldemort. She will do anything to protect her son. Lucius would probably do anything to save his skin. Okay. Who wants to be in Slytherin? I think I'd leave, wouldn't you? James asks the boy lounging on the seats opposite him. And there's Sirius. First trip to Hogwarts. James, Sirius, Severus, Lily. Snape says, my whole family been in Slytherin. Blimey. And I thought you seemed all right. Notice, before he hears that, Sirius grins. Maybe I'll break the tradition. Where are you heading if you've got the choice? Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Snape makes a funny noise. Nothing. I thought you'd rather be brawny than brainy. Where are you going to go, seeing as you're neither, says Sirius. I mean, just off the bat, Sirius hates him. James roars with laughter. Lily sits up and says to Snape, come on, let's find another compartment. See ya, Xenophilius. First day. Okay? Does Snape ever have a chance becoming friends with those two? No. They're idiots from the beginning. Okay? Why?
The flip-flop of Draco and Harry. Sirius is Draco.
And so is, to some extent, James. Okay? So, goes on, and we see Snape show up at Dumbledore's office with a warning. We see Snape come back. And Dumbledore says her boy survives. If this is real sorrow, if this is real remorse, you can help me try and save him. We see the promise he gives. We see Dumbledore with the ring. All right. We see Snape promise to kill Dumbledore. The boy's soul is not yet so damaged, says Dumbledore. I would not have it ripped apart on my account. And my soul? What about mine, Dumbledore? Snape replies. You alone know whether it will harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation. Snape agrees. Okay. Another memory, they're talking again. Dumbledore's talking about Harry's soul. Snape erupts. I thought we were talking about minds. And then finally we hear, Harry has to die. Dumbledore says, you've got to, at the last moment, tell Harry that on the night Lord Voldemort tried to kill him, when Lily cast her own life between them as a shield, the killing curse rebounded upon Lord Voldemort, and a fragment of Voldemort's soul was blasted apart from the whole, latched itself onto the only living soul left in that collapsing building. Part of Voldemort lives in Harry, and it is that which gives him the power of speech with snakes and the connection with Lord Voldemort's mind. So the boy must die, Snape says, and Voldemort himself must do it, Severus. That's essential. So, after Snape killed Dumbledore, and he was fleeing Hogwarts, and a Death Eater attacked Harry, and Snape stopped him. This is why. He knows nobody can kill Harry but Voldemort. I thought we were protecting him for her, for Lily. We protected him because it has been essential to teach him, to raise him, to let him try his strength. You've kept him alive so he can die at the right moment. What's Snape thinking? If we can read into his mind a little bit on the basis of what he says. Damn, that is cold. You are one cold, calculating, grand chess master. Don't be shocked, Severus. How many men and women have you watched die? Only those whom I could not save. Notice really the coldness of Dumbledore's words there. Don't be shocked. How many men and women have you watched die? It's kind of like pawns. They're expendable. We're talking big battle here, big war. This is the general saying, all right, you privates, go and die. Why? Because I got to save our last man. I've spied for you and lied for you, put myself in mortal danger for you. Everything was supposed to be to keep Lily Potter's son safe. Now you tell me you've been raising him like a pig for slaughter? Oh, this is touching, Severus. Have you grown to care for the boy after all? For him? Expecto Patronum. And the silver dough comes out. Light bulb goes off in Harry's mind. After all this time, always. A lot of people want to read into that. Oh, look, Snape's Patronus is a doe. Lily's a doe. No, there's not any lesbian homoerotic thing going on there. Okay? Yeah, it's kind of, it does me too. Never mind, I said it. So, the forest again. Finally, the truth. The truth, Harry's been what? Since book 1? Seeking. Why did Voldemort try to kill me when I was a baby? Can't tell you. Give me a few years. And he doesn't give him the whole truth. Lying with his face pressed into the dusty carpet of the office where he'd once thought he was learning the secrets of victory, Harry understood at last he was not supposed to survive. His job was to walk calmly into death's welcoming arms. Along the way, he was to dispose of Voldemort's remaining links to life, so that when at last he flung himself across Voldemort's path and did not raise a wand to defend himself, the end would be clean. The job that ought to have been done in Godric's Hollow would be finished. Neither would live, neither could survive. By allowing Voldemort to kill him, what would he be doing? Killing himself. Nice. Canceling out. So he gets up, and he lies there. He gets there, and he starts to think, why had he never appreciated what a miracle he was? Remember Christmas morning, he wakes up, He's looking out over that Thomas Kincaid painting, the mountains of Scotland covered in snow, church bells ringing, little Who's down in Whoville celebrating Who Christmas. And Harry thinks like he is a pimple on the butt of the universe, and nothing cares for him. Now, life is wonderful. Why? Tick-tock. Yeah, because he's looking at his non-watch, counting down the seconds. Like rain on a cold window. Page about 693. These thoughts pattered against the hard surface of the incontrovertible truth. I must die. It must end. Well, what did he come to understand finally towards the end of book 6? When he realized what the prophecy meant. What for him was death? It was either, the prophecy was either being dragged, kicking and screaming into an arena, or walking in, chest out, head held high. That's what he's got to do. So he makes his way out. He sees Neville. Takes his cloak off. Hey, Neville. You know that snake Voldemort has? Yeah. Kill it if you get a chance. Right? Puts the cloak back on. Walks past Ginny. Ginny's comforting a girl. It's okay. It's all right, Ginny says. We're going to get you inside. I want to go home. I don't want to fight anymore. Ginny, I know. It's going to be all right. Don't say shit like that when you don't know it's going to be all right. Ever. Okay? It does turn out it's going to be all right, but Ginny doesn't know that. This could be what? This could be first plane hitting the first tower. Oh, it's okay, Johnny. They won't do that to another one. That would be really stupid. You know. But Harry was home, we're told. Hogwarts was the first and best home he had known. He, and Voldemort, and Snape, the abandoned boys, all found home here. Notice what he's doing. He's identifying with these other two. Okay? Keeps walking. Dementors are swarming, but he can't come up with a Patronus. He gets to the edge of the forest, and we're told every second, around 696 or so, every second he breathed, the smell of the grass, the cool air on his face was so precious. In other words, all of his senses are on fire. Why? Because you're about to get snuffed out. He is aware of everything. Pulls the snitch out. I open it to close. Well, it's getting pretty close. He kisses it. I'm about to die. Pops open. Holds Draco's wand. There's the stone. Cracked it down the vertical line, representing the Elder Wand. And again, Harry understood without having to think. It did not matter about bringing them back, for he was about to join them. He's not really fetching them. They're fetching him. There's James, same height as Harry. There's his mother. There's Sirius, not like he looked in Prisoner of Azkaban and later books. This is young, handsome Sirius. There's Lupin, younger, not shabby. Lily, oh, Harry, you've been so brave. James, you're nearly there, very close. We're proud of you. Does it hurt? Sirius, not at all. Quicker and easier than falling asleep. That is from a holy sonnet of John Donne. I never looked these up. Not hokey sonnets, holy sonnets. I'm pretty sure it's Death Be Not Proud, where Dunn writes, I should know this by heart. I did my dissertation on these things. This stupid Wi-Fi. It's not going to pull up. Quicker and easier than falling asleep. Dunn writes towards the end of the sonnet, well, the whole sonnet. Death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkst thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure. Then from thee much more must flow. And soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swell'st thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die, quicker and easier than falling asleep. Poppy or charms can make us sleep as well and better than thy stroke. Poppy or charms, he's writing this in about 1608 to 1612. Poppy or charms, he's talking about drugs. We can OD. Okay? Lupin, and he'll want it to be quick. Voldemort. He wants it over. Harry, I didn't want you to die. That's why he sent Lupin away. He wanted Lupin to go be with Tonks. And now, Lupin's dead. Any of you, right after you'd had your son, Remus, I'm sorry. Lupin, I'm sorry too. Get choked up every time I read those lines. Sorry, I will never know him, but he will know why I died, and I hope he will understand. What's he mean? He'll know why I died. Why did Lupin die? Trying to do what?
Good.
Make the world a better place for him. He died for him. I was trying to make a world in which he could live a happier life. You'll stay with me? James, till the very end. They won't be able to see you. We're invisible to anyone else. So Harry walks in. He sees Voldemort. Voldemort sees him. Hagrid yells, and zap. And where are we? Chapter 35, King's Cross. All right. Harry wakes up. And where is he? Well, he's kind of nowhere. He lay face down, listening to the silence. Perfectly alone, nobody watching, nobody else there. Long time later, or maybe no time at all, he thinks, well, I must exist because I'm on a surface. I had a sense of touch. And he realizes, I'm naked. And as soon as he realizes that, he sees clothing. He sees bright mist. He sits up. His body appeared unscathed. He touches his face. He's not wearing glasses anymore. Guess what else he doesn't have? Why isn't he wearing glasses? Why? He's got perfect vision now. Why?
He's been restored.
He's been restored. Is this heaven? Is this heaven in his mind? Has Harry been eating mushrooms on his way into the Forbidden Forest? And then he hears a noise. The small, soft thumpings of something that flapped, flailed, and struggled. A pitiful noise. Indecent. And he wishes he were clothed. Barely had the wish formed in his head, robes appeared, a short distance away. He puts them on. Notice, he only wishes he's clothed when he realizes there's somebody else there. He stands up, looks around. Looks kind of like a palace. In other words, as he looks and sees, it starts to form. A great hall. And then he looks again at the thing because he hears the noise. It had the form of a small naked child curled on the ground, its skin raw and rough. flayed looking, and it lay shuddering under a seat where it had been left, unwanted, stuffed out of sight, struggling for breath. He was afraid of it. Small and fragile, wounded though it was, he did not want to approach it. Nevertheless, he drew slowly nearer. Why? Is this mere curiosity? He stood near enough to touch it, yet he could not bring himself to do it. He felt like a coward. He ought to comfort it. You cannot help. And there's Dumbledore. Harry, But you're dead. Then I'm dead too. On the whole, dear boy, I think not. What, has she been watching The Princess Bride? Is he only mostly dead? Does he just need Miracle Max to come to the forest, shove a big old pill down his throat? What is this? On the whole, dear boy, I think not. Not? But there's no scar. I should have died. I meant to let him kill me. And that would have made all the difference. What does that mean? I meant to let him kill me. What does Lily do over his crib? He sacrificed himself. He is, after all, Patronus Potter. The Patronus that protects. He is the chosen one. Harry, I let him kill me, didn't I? You did. Okay, then, back up several sentences. Okay, then I'm dead. If I let him kill me, then I'm dead. So the part of the soul that was in me, Dumbledore nods. Has it gone? Oh, yes. Yes, you destroyed it. Your soul, completely your own. But then, he looks at the thing. What's that? Something that is beyond either of our help. Is it? Harry doesn't think so. Even at the end of the chapter, I don't think Harry thinks this raw, flayed-looking thing is beyond his help. Okay? So, they have a long talk. What do we find out about Dumbledore in his youth? And Gellert Grindelwald and everything? Yeah, he was a power-hungry jerk. But he came to what conclusion?
He's still a power-hungry jerk.
Is he? He can't be trusted with power. So, Amber's kind of right there. It's why he stays at Hogwarts and doesn't go to the Ministry of Magic. He can't be trusted with it. He's like an alcoholic. What should an alcoholic never do? Go into a bar. Go into a liquor store. Okay? So, he says, page 719, I had learned I was not to be trusted with power. Talks about the invisibility cloak, etc. Harry says, okay, so if you planned your death with Snape, this is the last page of the chapter, you meant him to end up with the Elder Wand, didn't you? Yep, that was my intention. Didn't work as I intended it. No, said Harry, that part didn't work out at all. Like, you really screwed up that one, Dumbledore. Creature behind them jerks and moans. Okay, is this thing behind them dead? Not any more dead than Harry is. And Harry and Dumbledore sat without talking for the longest time yet. I've got to go back, haven't I? It's up to you. Wait, I've got a choice? Oh, yes. We're in King's Cross, you say. I think that if you decided not to go back, you would be able to think of that. King's, is it this kind of cross, or is it the heavenly train station? Or is it both? Because what does this do? It goes that way, and that way, and that way, and that way. You would be able to board a train. Harry, and where would it take me? On. Where? He didn't get to find out where Sirius went, but I think the implication is he boarded a train. Read, by the way, if you're interested. It's available on the internet as a PDF by J.R.R. Tolkien, Leaf by Niggle. Okay? It's a story he wrote to show in fictional form what he's getting at in his On Fairy Stories essay. I also think it's the basis for the book that became What Dreams May Come, if you're familiar with the film. Cuba Gooding Jr., Robin Williams. Okay? Great film about death, the afterlife, and all this kind of stuff. Because in there, you have a guy who dies who takes a train, goes on a train journey, okay, to purgatory and kind of beyond. I think that's partially behind what she's doing here. Voldemort's got the Elder Wand. Yep, he does. But you want me to go back. I think if you choose to return, there's a chance he may be finished for good. Can't promise it. I know this, Harry. You have less to fear from returning here than he does. Notice Dumbledore's implication. Harry, when you come back here, not if, when, you will go on. Why? Because Harry's soul is pure and such. Harry, again, I mean, how many times has he looked at this thing now? It's got to be at least half a dozen. He's concerned with this thing. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Is this thing dead? Still moving, still making noise. Pity the living. And above all, those who live without love. Who's he talking about? Voldemort. Who have we met who lives totally, completely without love? It's only Voldemort. Okay? By returning, you made sure fewer souls are maimed, fewer families are torn apart. If that seems to you a worthy goal, then we say goodbye for the present. In other words, I'll see you later, Harry. Yeah, see you, Big D. Would fit better here. Don't pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living and those who live without love. So what does Harry do? He goes back. Hagrid carries Harry to the castle. And Harry's like, surprise, I'm not dead. After Narcissa tells Voldemort he's dead. You got to imagine when Harry kind of goes, surprise. Voldemort's thinking, where is she? When I'm done with him, she's the first one I'm going to kill. Okay? What does Neville do? Chops off Nagini's head. Okay? And Harry says, page 738, Voldemort's kind of surprised. And Harry says, oh, it was an accident when my mother died trying to save me? Accident when I decided to fight in that graveyard? Because Voldemort said it's an accident that you've survived all these times. Accident I didn't defend myself tonight, still survived, returned to fight again? Voldemort. Accidents! Accident, chance, and the fact you crouched and sniveled between the skirts of greater men and women permitted me to kill them for you. You're not going to be killing anybody else tonight. You don't get it. You won't be able to kill any of them ever again. Don't you get it? I was ready to die to stop you, but you didn't. But I meant to, Harry says. Haven't you noticed none of the spells you put on them are binding? You can't torture them. You can't touch them. You don't learn from your mistakes, Riddle. Yes, I dare. I know things you don't know, Tom Riddle. Hello. Know that about you. I know lots of important things. Want to hear some more? Love, again, Voldemort says. Dumbledore's favorite solution, love, which he claimed conquered death, though love did not stop him falling from the tower and breaking. Love, which did not prevent me stamping out your mudblood mother like a cockroach. What will stop you dying now when I strike? Harry, just one thing. If it's not love that's going to save you this time, then you must believe you have magic that I do not, or a weapon more powerful. Both. In other words, A. Good job, Tom. Now you're starting to learn. You think you know more magic than me? More magic than Dumbledore dreamed of? Oh, he dreamed of it, but he knew more, he says. Knew enough not to do what you've done. You mean he was weak? Why? There is no such thing as good and evil. There is only power, and those too weak to seek it. Harry, he was cleverer than you. I brought about the... No, you didn't. Snape killed him. But Snape was Dumbledore's man, Harry says. Dumbledore's from the moment you started hunting down my mother, and you never knew it. Snape's Patronus was a doe, same as my mother's. Why? Because he loved her for nearly all his life, from the time when they were... You didn't know that, did you? You should have realized. He asked you to spare her life. Well, he desired her. Notice what Voldemort interprets Harry's words as. It was just sex. That's all he wanted. Yeah, when he was 10 years old, when he first met her, it was sex. Okay, I know Snape's kind of creepy, but he's not that creepy. Okay? I had a student one year in London who, she was adamant. Snape was the creepy par excellence. That what he felt for Lily was not love. This was some weird, twisted infatuation bordering on psychopathic whatever. Okay? And everybody else in the class, I mean, there were like 25 students in this class, are like, what the hell are you smoking? That is not the Snape that gets portrayed here. I mean, some of the other women in the class were like, man, you're completely ruining it. Okay? Anyways, Harry says Dumbledore was already dying when Snape finished him. Matters not whether Snape was mine or Dumbledore's, blah, 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 blah. I crushed your mother, Snape's great love, etc. I killed Severus Snape 3 hours ago, took the death stick. Harry, yep. But before you try to kill me, I'd advise you to think about what you've done. Think and try for some remorse, Riddle. What? What is this? Of all the things that Harry had said to him, beyond any revelation or taunt, nothing had shocked Voldemort like this. It's your one last chance, Harry says. It's all you got. I've seen what you'll be otherwise. That flayed thing under the chair. What's Harry offering him? Pity the dead. Don't pity the dead. Pity the living and those who live without love. Harry's offering him the opportunity to do what? Put Humpty Dumpty together again. He's ripped his soul into how many pieces? Yeah. And Harry's saying, you can make it right. Not with all the dead people, he can't. Okay? Voldemort putting himself back together again isn't going to make Fred come back up and talk about George's holy head. Nope, Fred's going to be dead forever. Okay? But he can make himself whole. You dare? Because what does that imply? What is Harry offering? He's offering redemption. Okay? By doing what? Showing. I don't want to write down the word showing. Mercy. And it's Tolkien again. It's Gandalf. And pity. He feels pity for Tom Riddle. The boy who could have been so much more. What's he doing now? He's showing mercy. Why? Tom Riddle is in Harry's hands. Harry knows at this point he has what? He's got control of the situation. Tom Riddle can't harm him. Why? Harry thinks, based upon his conversation with Dumbledore, that wand in Tom Riddle's hand is going to do what? It's going to look through the tip of it and go, well, shoot, that's my master. I'm not going to hurt him. That wand still isn't working properly for you because you murdered the wrong person. Severus Snape was never the true master of the Elder Wand. He killed. You're not listening. Snape never beat Dumbledore. Dumbledore planned that. Well, then Potter, Dumbledore as good as gave me the wand, Voldemort says. I stole the wand from its last master's tomb. I removed it against its last master's wishes. Therefore, I defeated him. No, he was already dead. You can't defeat a dead man. You don't get it, do you? Possessing it's not enough. Did you never listen to Ollivander? Harry's first meeting with him. The wand chooses the wizard. The Elder Wand recognized a new master before Dumbledore died. Someone who'd never even laid a hand on it. Draco Malfoy. Blank shock showed in Voldemort's voice. And you gotta imagine, if Draco was in the hall, and I don't remember if he is, I don't think he is, I think he's still off at Malfoy Manor, he'd probably be going, huh? So what? Voldemort says, even if you're right, Potter, makes no difference to you and me. You no longer have the Phoenix Wand. We duel on skill alone. After I've killed you, I'll take care of Draco. Too late. I defeated Draco. Weeks ago, I took this wand from him. So Harry says it all comes down to this, doesn't it? Think you're lucky, punk. He channels his inner dirty Harry. Does that wand in your hand know its last master was disarmed? Because if it does, I'm the true master. And what happens? Red glow burst suddenly across the enchanted sky above them. Why? They're in the Great Hall. As an edge of dazzling sun appeared over the sill of the nearest window. The light hit both of their faces at the same time. Avada Kedavra, Expelliarmus. One falls dead, and one stands triumphant. Two come in, one comes out. Tom Riddle hit the floor with a mundane finality. Voldemort was dead, killed by his own rebounding curse. And we're told the sun rose steadily. The great hall blazed with light. And what's Harry do? He walks around touching people, comforting them, speaking to them as their leader and symbol, their savior, their guide. And then he had not slept, and he craved the company of only a few of them. No one thought about it. He must speak to the bereaved, clasp their hands, witness their tears, receive their thanks. Hear the news now creeping in from every quarter. As the morning drew on, that the imperious up and down the country had come back to themselves. Death Eaters were fleeing or being captured. The innocent of Azkaban were being released, and that Kingsley Shacklebolt had been named Minister of Magic. All right? Harry goes off to Dumbledore's, the headmaster's office. And all the portraits clap. Applause all around the walls. But Harry had eyes only for the man who stood in the largest portrait, directly behind the headmaster's chair. He looks at Dumbledore, and Harry says, thing that was hidden in the snitch, I dropped it in the forest. Don't know where. Not going to go looking for it. Dumbledore, good idea. Anyone know where it fell? Nope. I'm going to keep Ignotus's present, though, says Harry. Dumbledore says, it's yours forever until you pass it on. And then he says, and then there's this. He holds up the Elder Wand. I don't want it. Ron, are you mental? I know it's powerful, said Harry, but I was happy with mine. So he pulls out the two halves of holly still just connected by the finest thread of phoenix feather. Points the Elder Wand at it. Reparo. As his wand is fixed, Harry knew he succeeded, and he says to Dumbledore, I'm putting the Elder Wand back where it came from. It can stay there. If I die a natural death like Ignotus, it dies too. Ron, you sure? Hermione, I think he's right. And I'm not going to say anything about the epilogue. Other than, they see Draco, and what does Draco do? He tips his hat. Why? How did Draco live? Did Crabbe and Goyle live?
No, they died, didn't
Where?
they? Azkaban.
Nope.
No, the fire.
One of them dies in the fiend fire. In the room of requirement, when Harry's getting the diadem, or destroying the diadem, okay? He saves Draco from that. All right? Now, we meet Harry's youngest child, Albus Severus, here. And if have any of you read The Cursed Child? You have? Anybody else?
The play? Or
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
I liked it.
Did you really?
Yeah. I didn't like how it was written. It's very poorly written. It's read like a fan fiction, honestly. It's not.
It's like toilet paper that's been used. I mean, it is really bad.
I enjoyed the storylines. I enjoy reading fan fiction. Like not. Yeah, not.
Yeah, it is like fan fiction. I'll say this for if it has any redeeming qualities. Students, 2 years ago when I was in London teaching my course, when the play opened, I had several students who were able to get tickets. Okay? And they said the production was fantastic. The play itself was horrible. Okay? I started reading it, I think that summer when I got home, and I got 50 pages in and just,
I don't think it was meant to be read as a novel.
I don't think it's meant to be read, period. All right. As I said at the beginning of class, the exam is on D2L under the announcements/news tab and should be in your D2L email. It is due hard copy